I've always valued forging my path, so living alone in the vibrant heart of the city, a mere stone's throw from the book publishing company where I work as an editor, suits me perfectly. While my parents are always just a phone call away, the responsibility of city life falls solely on my shoulders. One Saturday, craving a break from the norm, I decided to trade in manuscripts for some fresh air and headed to my favorite park. It's a peaceful place I usually find solace in. That day, deep in thought, perhaps too deep, I failed to notice the bicycle path up ahead until a voice urgently warned, "Watch out." I stepped back just in time as a cyclist came to a screeching halt right where I would have been moments later. "Jesus, lady, you trying to get yourself killed?" he exclaimed, catching his breath. He seemed annoyed yet relieved there was no collision. Apologetically, I admitted, "I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, no thanks to you. You've got to watch where you're going," he replied, his tone harsh, yet laced with genuine concern. Acknowledging my mistake, I thanked him for his quick reflexes. After a moment, he relaxed slightly and suggested, "All right, no harm done, I guess. But maybe keep off the bike lane, huh?" "Deal," I responded with a small smile. Introducing myself, "I'm Elizabeth, by the way." "Gregory," he replied, extending his hand, which I shook. "So, Elizabeth, always this distracted, or is it just my lucky day?" "Only on Saturdays," I quipped, feeling more comfortable. We both laughed, and that awkward beginning morphed into coffee at a nearby cafe. Gregory worked in car sales, direct and blunt, but amusing. We chatted about everything from books, which he rarely read, to cars, about which I knew little. The conversation flowed effortlessly, the kind where time slips by unnoticed. "I didn't think I'd end up spending my afternoon with the woman who nearly wrecked my bike," Gregory remarked as we later stood to leave. "And I didn't think I'd be thanking the guy who nearly ran me over on our first encounter," I replied with a laugh. "Well, I guess we're both full of surprises. Can I see you again, Elizabeth? Maybe on a day when you're not in the path of moving vehicles." I nodded, smiling. "I think I can arrange that." Over the next few weeks, Gregory and I began to see each other more frequently. What started as casual coffee dates and city walks, where his straightforward manner was refreshingly genuine, evolved into late-night talks and dinners at spots that quickly became our places. The more we shared, the more I was drawn to his candid charm. As our relationship deepened, it was only a matter of time before meeting his family came up. They lived in a spacious suburban home, complete with a yard. Gregory had mentioned his mother's traditional values, setting the stage for that next chapter in our unfolding story. I was not fully prepared for the reality of meeting Gregory's family. When we arrived at their home, it was evident that his parents had been eagerly anticipating our visit. His mother, a vivacious woman with a warm smile, greeted us at the door. She embraced Gregory with a hearty hug and then gave me a scrutinizing look that lingered a little too long. "Elizabeth, dear, it's so wonderful to finally meet you. Gregory has told us so much about you," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug that seemed more about sizing me up than welcoming me. "Thanks, Mrs. Carroll. It's great to meet you too," I responded, doing my best to mirror her warmth. We settled into the living room, and Mrs. Carroll dove right into the conversation. "So, Elizabeth, Gregory tells us you work at a publishing house. That must be quite exciting, handling books all day," she said. "It is, Mrs. Carroll. I love my job. It's rewarding to be part of the creative process," I explained, glancing at Gregory, hoping he'd help navigate the conversation. "That's nice, dear, but once you two settle down, you'll need to consider what's really important. Family should come first, and a woman's touch in the home is irreplaceable," she continued without missing a beat. Gregory's father, who had been quietly observing, nodded in agreement. "Absolutely. A stable home is the foundation of a good life, right, son?" he said, looking at Gregory. Gregory shifted in his seat but managed to respond, "Yeah, Mom. Elizabeth's great at managing her time, though. She's pretty organized and sharp." "Of course, but managing a home is different, It's a full-time commitment," his mother countered, her gaze intense as if she was trying to decode me. Feeling cornered, I cleared my throat. "I believe it's possible to balance both," Mrs. Carroll. "I think a modern family can have 2 working parents. It's all about teamwork, isn't it?" Mrs. Carroll smiled, but her eyes did not reflect the warmth of her expression. "Oh dear, that's a nice thought. But in reality, children need their mother and a house needs a woman's touch, not just a quick sweep." The conversation shifted away from this point, but her words lingered. Dinner was served, and it felt like navigating a minefield. Every compliment about the food seemed like a subtle hint for me to take notes. "Elizabeth, do you cook often?" Mrs. Carroll asked as she served a perfectly roasted chicken. "Sometimes when I can. Work keeps me pretty busy," I replied, trying to keep the tone light. "Ah well, you'll find great satisfaction in keeping your family fed and your house in order," she said, passing the mashed potatoes as if imparting age-old wisdom. Gregory gave me a light kick under the table, a silent signal to stay calm. I simply smiled, sipping my wine a bit more than usual, reflecting on how this dinner felt more like an interview than a meal. Despite the initial reservations from that first meeting, Gregory and I continued our relationship, and after a year, we decided to get married. Love, as they say, fills you with hope. We planned a modest wedding with close family and friends. Nothing extravagant, just the way we both wanted it. The wedding day was a joyful blur of smiles, flowers, and a small crowd of well-wishers at the local community hall we had booked. It was quaintly decorated, and there was a palpable air of excitement, perhaps just my nerves. The ceremony was brief yet poignant. We exchanged vows, rings, and a kiss that sealed our commitment. Everyone clapped, and in that moment, everything felt just right. During a reception where we were enjoying some appetizers, Gregory casually brought up the idea of us moving to a larger apartment as he nibbled on some finger food. "I've been thinking about our discussion on needing more space," he mentioned. I was snacking on a celery stick and nodded in agreement. "What did you find?" I inquired. Gregory's eyes lit up as he shared. "There's this fantastic apartment that's not only spacious, but also beautifully laid out. It's actually close to where I grew up." He observed my reaction carefully. "Near your parents?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Yes, it's convenient, and my parents would love to have us nearby. Plus, my dad offered to help with the rent for a while," he added. I paused, contemplating the frequent visits from his mother that might become a routine. "That's very kind, but Gregory, you know how much I value our privacy. I don't want to feel dependent," I expressed. Gregory held my hand reassuringly. "I understand, Elizabeth, but financially, it's a wise decision, and having family close could be beneficial, especially if we start our own soon." I was skeptical, but agreed to consider it. "We can try, but if it gets overwhelming, we'll need to rethink our decision," I said. "Agreed," Gregory smiled, and we returned to hosting our friends. Moving in proved to be a challenge. The apartment was indeed roomy with a beautiful park view, but it also meant a 55-minute drive to my job, which extended my daily commute. True to their nature, Gregory's parents visited often. His mother brought housewarming presents that were more about her tastes than ours. "Elizabeth, dear, these curtains will brighten up the living room," she insisted one day, holding up an elaborate floral set that clashed with our decor. "Thanks, Mrs. Carroll, but I like our current ones," I responded, trying to keep the conversation light. However, she proceeded to hang them up anyway. Each visit from her felt more like an inspection than a casual drop-in, making me feel uneasy in my new home. Gregory tried to mediate, but our views on family closeness differed. As time passed, Gregory and I found ourselves debating our lifestyles more often. He favored traditional roles, suggesting, "Think about it, Elizabeth. You manage the home, and I handle the finances. It makes sense." He seemed convinced this was the final word. But I would counter, showing him our budget on my laptop. With the current economic situation and job market uncertainties, having 2 incomes is safer and more practical. Gregory would sigh, visibly frustrated, implying that family dynamics were about more than just financial stability. Meanwhile, Mrs. Carroll practically made our apartment her second home, imposing her presence and opinions on us constantly. "You're not planning to stay at that job forever, are you?" She would start questioning my career choices the moment she arrived. I would defend my work, which I was passionate about, trying to remain polite yet firm. She would then critique the cleanliness of our apartment, insinuating it could be better if I were home more. Frustrated, I'd reply, "It's clean enough. We live here. It's not a museum." My patience was wearing thin, as our home felt less like our own and more like a battleground for differing family ideals. However, she'd already moved on to her next critique, flinging open the refrigerator to survey my grocery choices with a frown. "This isn't enough for a healthy meal, and these leftovers, don't you cook fresh?" she complained, her expression one of clear disapproval. I tried to discuss this with Gregory. "Your mom is overstepping, and it's starting to stress me out." "I can't meet her high expectations," I confessed. Gregory, always trying to smooth things over, sighed and responded, "She's just trying to help." "Elizabeth, maybe if you were home more, things wouldn't be so tense." One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I returned home to find Gregory visibly upset. "This place is a mess, Elizabeth. And this dinner," he gestured dismissively at the pasta I had quickly prepared, "it's just not good enough." I was stretched thin. "I'm doing my best, Gregory. I'm working full-time and trying to manage the house, but it seems like it's never enough for you or your mom," I retorted, my frustration peaking. "Well, maybe if you weren't trying to do both, you'd actually succeed at one," he snapped back, his words sharp and hurtful. I was stunned. "Are you saying I need to choose between my job and our home?" I asked. "If you can't handle both, then yes. Maybe you should just be a housewife. Honestly, if things don't change, I don't see how this can work out," he threatened, his tone cold and serious. A chill ran down my spine as the man I loved gave me an ultimatum that felt like a tightening noose around my neck. Be a housewife or bust. It was clear that the life I had built, my career and my independence, were slipping through my fingers as I tried to cling to it. The tension in our home was palpable, cutting through the air like a knife. Gregory and I were at a breaking point over my career and our lifestyle. Deeply in love and desperate for a resolution, I made a drastic decision to smooth things over. I went to my boss and explained that I was resigning to become a full-time housewife. My boss was shocked and disappointed. He knew how much my career meant to me. However, he then offered a lifeline. Remote work. "You can still edit, just from home," he suggested. It wasn't ideal, but it felt like a compromise I could accept without completely losing my sense of self. I didn't tell Gregory about the remote work arrangement. Instead, I told him I had quit my job to focus on our home. His face lit up in a way that both warmed and broke my heart simultaneously. "That's great, Elizabeth. It'll be better for us, you'll see," he said, pulling me into a hug that felt like he was clinging to newfound peace of mind. I embraced the role of housewife, managing the chores, cooking meals, and ensuring everything was just right for when he came home. But as soon as he left for work each morning, my laptop opened, and I was back at my editor's desk, working remotely. The balance was precarious, juggling my secret work life with the domestic life Gregory believed I had fully embraced. I funneled the money I earned into a separate account, thinking it wise to have a financial cushion that Gregory didn't know about, just in case. Living on just Gregory's salary was his idea, and it strained our finances more than he realized. Just 2 months in, the cracks began to show. "We're running low on everything, Gregory. We need to rethink our budget." I approached the topic one evening, hoping for a rational conversation. "What are you talking about? You're just not managing our money right," he retorted. Gregory's stern voice cut through the air, his frustration evident. "You need to cut back on spending," he exclaimed, his words sharp with irritation. I felt a sting of hurt. I hadn't treated myself in ages, always on the lookout for sales and saving wherever possible. "I've been incredibly careful with our finances," I retorted, my voice tight, wounded by his accusation. The next morning, as if summoned, Mrs. Carroll arrived at our doorstep. "Gregory mentioned you're struggling with the budget. Let me show you the right way to shop," she announced decisively, leaving no room for argument. The days that followed were an intensive lesson in extreme frugality. She took me from store to store, pointing out the least expensive products, many of questionable quality. "These are what you should be buying, Elizabeth. Forget the fancy stuff. she instructed sharply, treating me more like a misbehaving child than an adult. She even taught me how to dilute dish soap to extend its use, her gaze piercing. "You'll learn to manage with less. It's for the best," she stated, more to herself than to me. She scrutinized every receipt and questioned every purchase. "Why this? There's no need for unnecessary trips when there's work to be done," she scolded upon seeing a bus ticket among my things. It was about more than just saving money. It felt belittling, as though I was constantly being watched. The strict regimen imposed by Gregory and enforced by his mother felt suffocating. One afternoon, overwhelmed, I locked myself in our bedroom and called my mom. Tears edged my voice as I shared how Mrs. Carroll's stringent budgeting tips made it feel like I was living through the Great Depression. "That's not normal, Elizabeth," my mom responded firmly. "You and Gregory are supposed to be partners. It sounds like she's taking control, and Gregory shouldn't allow it." Relief washed over me as she spoke, but it was short-lived. Suddenly, the door burst open. Gregory stood there, fury etched across his face, having overheard my conversation. Without a word, he grabbed the phone from my hand and ended the call. "A wife shouldn't be complaining about her husband and his mother like some traitor," he snapped coldly. I was stunned. "Gregory, I was talking to my mom. I needed someone to talk to." I tried to explain, but he was unyielding. The argument escalated quickly, voices raised, words thrown that couldn't be taken back. In a fit of anger, Gregory stormed out, slamming the door behind him. He was gone until past midnight, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts of sadness and frustration. When he finally returned, the smell of alcohol hung heavily around him. His usual stern demeanor had given way to a sloppy, cruel drunkenness. "I should have listened to my mom. She warned me about marrying someone like you," he slurred, his words cutting deep. I stood up, my anger rising. "Gregory, you're an adult. Stop letting your mother dictate our lives. You don't need her approval for everything." His anger flared even more at my words. "If you're so unhappy, why don't you just leave?" he bellowed, stepping threateningly close. "It's 2 a.m., Gregory. It's not safe," I replied, my voice trembling as I tried to reason with him. "I don't care. Get out," he shouted, turning away dismissively. After a brief hesitation, I started gathering my essentials, my phone and some clothes. When I reached for my wallet, Gregory snatched it away, his voice laced with venom. "I earned this money, Elizabeth. You have no right to it," he declared. A wave of panic washed over me, but then I remembered my bank account, my secret backup plan. I quickly called a taxi and left without a backward glance, Gregory's angry shouts diminishing as the door shut behind me. I sought refuge in a nearby hotel, a temporary sanctuary. The next morning, I was up early, my mind buzzing with plans. My first stop was a small, unassuming lawyer's office. The lawyer, Mr. Jonathan, was perceptive and compassionate. He listened intently as I recounted my situation, nodding in sympathy. "We'll get the divorce papers drawn up immediately. You have rights, Elizabeth, and we'll ensure they're respected," he promised with reassuring confidence. With the divorce papers, I returned to the apartment Gregory and I had shared. The silence of the place contrasted sharply with the chaos of the previous night, evidenced by a discarded bottle and Gregory's snoring figure on the couch. He hadn't even made it to the bedroom. I packed swiftly, clothes, books, personal items, all stuffed into boxes and bags. The act of leaving felt both freeing and somber. As I zipped up my last suitcase, Gregory stirred. "Elizabeth, hey, can you grab me a beer?" he mumbled, groggy and oblivious to the suitcases. Instead of a beer, I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table before him. "Here's what I can offer you," I said, my voice steady and calm. Gregory blinked, slowly coming to. He picked up the papers, scanned them, and smirked dismissively. "You're serious? Come on, Elizabeth. Just apologize to me and my mom. Promise to follow the rules, and we can forget all this." I couldn't help but let out a short, bitter laugh. "No, Gregory. I'm not coming back. Not now, not ever. This is goodbye." I left the apartment, the door clicking shut behind me, a sound that sealed my past away. That afternoon, I moved into my own small, rented apartment. Returning to full-time work at the office, I felt rejuvenated by the familiar environment, the buzz of activity, the rhythmic clacking of keyboards, the comforting aroma of brewing coffee. I loved my job, and it was good to be back. I reconnected with friends and family, repairing relationships that had frayed during my tumultuous marriage. Over long dinners and weekend brunches, I shared laughs and stories, drawing strength from these bonds that had endured much. One late afternoon, as I was finalizing a manuscript, my phone buzzed. It was Anna, a dear friend and confidant from the city. "Hey Anna, what's up?" I answered, smiling at the sound of her enthusiastic voice. "Elizabeth, I'm so glad I caught you. Listen, a few of us are meeting this weekend at that new cafe downtown. You have to come, it's been ages, and everyone's dying to see you." The cafe meetup was exactly what I needed: laughter, updates, and a gentle reintroduction to my social life. It felt wonderful to be among friends, sharing stories and enjoying the camaraderie I had missed. As the gathering wound down, Anna caught my arm, her presence a comforting reminder of the support I had. As I was heading out the door, Anna's voice stopped me. "Hey, how are you doing, Elizabeth?" Her expression was intense, yet gentle. I paused, took a deep breath, and decided to share my truth. "I'm getting there, Anna. It's been a rough patch, but I feel like I'm truly starting to move on now." A few months into adjusting to my new yet familiar life, my phone buzzed while I was engrossed in a complex manuscript. The caller ID showed it was Gregory. With a sigh, I braced myself and answered, maintaining a calm tone. "Hello, Elizabeth. I need to talk." Gregory's voice sounded tentative and strained. "What's up, Gregory?" I asked, not in the mood for small talk. "I've been fired," he blurted out. "Things are pretty bad financially. I was hoping. Do you think you could lend me some money?" And I pressed, already anticipating the next part of his request. He continued hesitantly, and I was thinking maybe we could start over. "If you apologize to my mom and me, maybe we could try again. You could help us out." I couldn't contain my laughter. The suggestion was absurd. "Gregory, are you joking? You expect me to apologize, support you, and return to that chaos? You've abandoned your values pretty quickly, haven't you?" The line went quiet. Finally, he asked, "So, is that a no?" "Yes, Gregory, that's a definite no," I replied, still amused by the ridiculousness of his proposal. "I'm doing well, and I'm not about to sacrifice my newfound freedom and happiness to revisit whatever that was." After hanging up, I shook my head in disbelief at the conversation. It reminded me how much I had evolved and the liberation I now felt. I turned back to my manuscript, a smile tugging at my lips. The thought of re-entering a relationship wasn't appealing at all. I was relishing my independence and the tranquility it brought too much to consider anything else.